Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 376, Raid, Third Wave. General POV. The explosion was broadcast live on TV as news channels began covering the incident after the initial attack. Although it was almost midnight, millions of citizens were tuning in. We received some breaking news. Most of the fundraiser attendees evacuated before the explosion happened. We're still waiting for the list of names of those who were left behind, a news reporter said to the camera urgently as the fire kept spreading. The fire department and the bomb squad immediately mobilized to the scene. It feels like America is going to hell in recent years with all of these attacks, Jay said, waking up at 3 a.m. after getting a phone call from Claire. He and Gloria watched the news together, with Gloria holding his arm tightly before praying for Edward's safety in Spanish. Claire and Phil watched the TV together, concern etched on their faces. Suddenly, Alex walked downstairs and stood behind them, asking, "Mom, Dad, what's going on?" "Hey Alex, honey, why are you up?" Claire was surprised. She quickly turned off the news, not wanting Alex to know the situation, but Alex said, "Enid already told me everything, Mom. Turn on the TV again." Back at the hotel, Mr. Ahmed grinned maniacally as he searched for Edward inside the convention hall, among the fire. "Come on out, $1 billion man. You have no place else to go. I'll make sure to make it painless," Mr. Ahmed shouted. Edward's voice rang out, echoing from multiple directions, making it hard to pinpoint his location. "Is there a painless way to put a bullet in someone's brain? Also, do you even know how to claim the bounty? Because I've checked, there's nothing about it online." While the execution was happening, he took out his phone and let his AI search the web again, but he still couldn't find the details of the hit. "If a chance is thrown in front of you, you do it first and think about it later," Mr. Ahmed shouted before shooting at a shadow he thought was Edward. Edward laughed childishly, his voice echoing again, like Boy Wonder in Batman. Miss me, now you have to catch me," he said in a sing-song voice, which made the terrorist shoot multiple times as he thought he caught a glimpse of Edward's back. "Stop running away and face me," Mr. Ahmed said, not realizing that he was stepping onto a rope loop. As he stood beside the hole in the wall, Edward suddenly appeared beside him and said, "I'm right here." He gave the terrorist a lariat, and Mr. Ahmed was thrown off the building. The rope around his legs tightened, saving him from falling to his doom. "HHH!" he shouted in horror as he dangled on the side of the building. The SWAT team finally arrived at the convention hall and saw only Edward there. "You guys are late, again," he said with a smirk, referring to the time he got kidnapped in New York. Rosa and Jake finally breathed a sigh of relief when they saw Edward fully intact. Rosa suddenly clenched her teeth in anger and rushed toward Edward, giving him a punch on the bicep. "Ow? What's that for?" Edward asked in disbelief. "You could have just left on the helicopter. Why did you put yourself in danger?" Edward was stunned for a moment before he shook his head slightly and lied. "Well, I wanted to. Then the explosion happened, so I missed the timing." Jake laughed and said, "Rosa, why are you mad at him? He fought the terrorists all alone and saved everyone, like John McClane in Die Hard." Both Edward and Jake chuckled together. Rosa rolled her eyes before she finally smiled, thinking everything was over now. Rosa and Jake escorted Edward to the hotel lobby, where hundreds of people were staring at them, Edward, to be exact. "Mr. Newgate, what happened at the convention hall?" a reporter shouted, demanding answers. Edward just smiled and waved at them as he walked outside. Suddenly, the trio was stopped by a few men in black suits. Rosa's instincts told her something was wrong. They showed their badges and said, "We're from the FBI and NCS. We'll be in charge of escorting Mr. Newgate from now on." Rosa growled, saying spitefully while glancing at the agents' names and IDs. "Until the commander of the operation says otherwise, the NYPD will be in charge of him. Now move!" "Sorry, Detective, but we cannot do that," one of the agents said as she tried to force her way through. Now, Rosa. There's no need to get mad," Edward said, patting Rosa's buttock slightly. Rosa was taken aback. She widened her eyes and glared at him, but she also sensed a certain heaviness in her back pocket, which made her keep her mouth shut. "They are also the police, right?" "I guess they want to ask me some questions since it involves a terrorist organization," Edward said before turning his back on the detectives. Jake immediately tried to pull him back. "Edward, it's dangerous. We still haven't confirmed their identity yet." Edward sensed something else about these agents. Their fingers were on their gun triggers the whole time, and the way they gazed at Rosa and Jake was alarming. Edward waved dismissively and said, "Don't worry about it. We have already been given authority by the field commander," the agent said, which made Rosa and Jake scowl and glare at the vulture. "First, we need you to hand over your watch and phone. We have information that the terrorists are tapping into your devices, so we need to shut them down before going to the safe house," the muscular African-American agent said, grabbing Edward's wrist. Jake retorted, "Who didn't know that Edward would be here? Don't you guys have Instagram?" "There's no way they are tapping his phone and watching if they decided to attack him here." Edward ignored Jake and said, "Sure." The agent took off his watch forcefully. Edward narrowed his eyes slightly but maintained a poker face. He soon left with the agents while Jake and Rosa watched from afar. Jake said, "I have a bad feeling about this." Rosa said urgently, "We have to go back to the station now. We need Holt to get Edward back. I don't trust those guys." On the rooftop, Dresa, the sniper, said, "Should we just let him go? I have a clear line of fire if you want me to take out the agents." "No, not yet. They have official status for now. We'll follow our boss's orders and continue to track them," Jean said in a cold tone. "Besides, the boss had already set up everything," he added. An hour passed quickly. The survivors of the incident, such as Andy Samberg, went to talk about their experiences with the news reporters. Based on the witness reports, everyone knew that Edward wasn't the one being targeted, but he stood up to the fray and saved many people today. The clip of Edward fighting terrorists was also released after there wasn't any movement from his image agency. Inside the 99th Police Precinct, Rosa asked Holt urgently, "Where is he? Do we know yet?" "No. I've called the FBI. They confirmed that Agent Finn is one of theirs, but they would not disclose where they had brought him," Holt said, slight tiredness in his voice. "Ugh. This sucks." Jake threw his hands down and sighed. "We should have never let him go." In Edward's New York penthouse, Barbara, Taylor, Selena, Walla, and Vanessa waited together while drinking some alcohol when they received the news from Jean. Vanessa bit her lower lip anxiously before downing another shot of vodka. Taylor looked at her sympathetically and said, "He's going to be fine. You know, this is not his first rodeo." There was an air of uncertainty in the house. No one really knew what to say. Vanessa gripped the shot glass tightly, sweat on her palm. Although it was nearing 2 a.m., no one felt sleepy. Inside a dark underground space, Edward was escorted by numerous agents, a burlap sack covering his head. He was thrown into a glass cage the size of a shipping container. There was a metal bed and a metal toilet inside. After the container was closed, Edward finally took off the burlap sack himself and breathed heavily. "Ugh! Can't you evil masterminds invest in softer fabric, cotton or satin?" he said begrudgingly as he sat down on the metal chair, facing the front where numerous agents stood, staring at him. All of his accessories had been stripped from him. His pockets were emptied, leaving him with only his suit. "So, what's for dinner?" "I'm starving," Edward asked casually. His stomach growled loudly, audible to the nearest agent. "Bring him some food," an authoritative voice commanded. Peter Kotsiopoulos, the director of the National Clandestine Service, NCS, a component of the CIA that dealt with covert operations, walked slowly to the front of the cage, dragging a metal chair. He sat down in front of Edward with a disarming smile. The circular glasses-wearing old man with white hair greeted Edward. "You know who I am, right?" "Sure. Let's get on with the plot." "I want to go back home soon," Edward said, his face already bored. It took so long for the big bad to appear that he was comparing the scene with some movies. "Why don't I have the time skip sequence? I had to endure everything, pretending that I cannot do anything to the agents that's bringing me here," he thought sadly. "You seem confident that you can go back home tonight. I'm curious about the basis of your belief," Peter said with a condescending expression. Edward rolled his eyes in disgust. At the 99th precinct, Rosa and Jake had a secret meeting in the closet. "So when he touched your ass?" Rosa interrupted Jake quickly. "He didn't touch it," Jake teased. "Maybe brushed on it a little." "Shut up, Jake. He only did that to give me this," Rosa said before taking out a smartwatch from her back pocket. Jake widened his eyes. "Oh my God! He gave you a gift? Wait, sorry. The classy watch throws me off a little." The witness said that there were spies targeting his watch at the start. The agents also focused on it when they brought him away. "So I'm guessing there's something in here that people are willing to die, or commit acts of terror, for. I've already told Holt about this. He told me to go to cybercrimes, but honestly I don't trust that the FBI won't have people in that department," Rosa said with distress. Jake became slightly serious before getting an idea. "Oh. I know an internet-savvy girl who helped me with some of my cases before. She can help." "You mean Abby?" Rosa looked at Jake in disbelief. "She's interning. But she's an intern at the forensic department, which is similar to how the Flash lives his double life." "Or she could be Dexter," Rosa retorted subconsciously. Jake grinned widely as Rosa got the reference and said, "Even if she's Dexter, she's living by a code of conduct. In this case, I don't think it will be detrimental to Edward if she can crack the password." "Oh, there's no password," Rosa said as she swiped on the smartwatch screen, entering the main menu. "But there's nothing inside that can help," Rosa added. "Maybe it's encrypted?" Jake said as he grabbed the watch from Rosa. They went to Abby's house, who had a twin-tail hairstyle. Being a night owl, Abby wasn't sleeping and was tuning into the news report about the attack. "Edward's life and death depend on me?" Abby had tumultuous thoughts, but she decided to help. After connecting the watch to her computer, Abby found a hidden data vault inside the smartwatch. "It's password protected," she said anxiously, tapping on the keyboard quickly to get into the system. "We have one try. If it fails, the defense program will delete everything stored inside." Abby turned to the detectives. "Oh, it's a puzzle. What did a certain disgraced ballerina's hair look like at the height of her career? What's this? Who is he referring to?" Jake was confused when he read the message on the screen. Rosa looked upward and sighed in exasperation. "Pink," she said. "The answer is pink." "Oh, really? We only have one chance." Abby looked at Rosa with concern. "Just type in pink." Rosa snapped. Abby flinched and quickly typed in the word. As the password was entered, a picture of Rosa with pink hair and a ballerina costume, smiling brightly as she danced, popped up on the screen. Jake opened his mouth wide, feeling in a teasing mood, but as he turned to Rosa, he saw she was fuming, so he closed his mouth again. The picture floated around for 10 seconds before the program was finally revealed. Live stream? Rosa was confused when she saw one of the program's names. "He also stores videos of the terror attacks. I guess he's filming everything for his safety," Abby said with an excited smile. "As expected of Eddie," she added with an affectionate tone. "What's with the smile?" Before Jake could say anything, Rosa clicked on the live stream program. There, they saw the NCS director sitting in front of Edward. Facial recognition exposed the identity of the man and his status to the screen. Although he was stripped of his gadgets, one of the buttons on Edward's suit was a mini camera, and it was filming the entire thing. What does the head of NCS want with Edward? Rosa narrowed her eyes. Wait! And no! The program! It's connecting the live stream directly to the internet! Abby yelled urgently. Maybe that is what the program is supposed to do, Rosa said in a serious tone. Back to the black site. Jean, Matt and Kingpin, who was a huge muscular man with a prominent scar on his head, encircled the entire building. Block the signals to the outside world. And deal with every agent who's coming back to the site to report, Jean ordered. Kingpin rolled his eyes and said lazily, Can't we just go inside and kill everyone? What's with all of the hard work? Just follow the order, Jean said firmly before he jumped off the roof to infiltrate the black site. Edward and the NCS director's conversation continued while people were jumping on the live stream. I love Edward. Is this Edward's POV cam? Texas CC, why is he in a cage? Is he getting arrested? 10,400 people watching. The number of viewers was climbing extremely fast, reaching over 2 million people in just a few minutes. Although most of the United States was sleeping right now, there were still many people around the globe who followed Edward's Instagram. The facial recognition exposed the director's name and status to the live stream audience, so the people knew who Edward was talking to. I'm curious about the basis of your belief, Peter said to Edward in a condescending tone, unaware that he was being flamed by hundreds of thousands of teenage girls online. What's this old bag of wrinkles trying to do? Acting cool? Edward replied after a while. I have a pretty solid basis, actually. You're not here to kill me. Instead, the whole thing was a farce, a show of power, which means there's something else you want from me. Otherwise, I'd be eating bullets on the ride here. Peter tried to keep a poker face, but his expression faltered the more Edward continued speaking. So why does the NCS want to isolate me from my guardians? You even went so far as to set up the terror attack, Edward said with a smirk. First, hire some spies to steal my watch. If you're part of the CIA, then I guess you know that it's a mini-computer, and based on what I see on this jail cell's control panel, I can break out from here pretty easily if I have my watch. You know the information when I defused the bomb inside the orchestra hall. So you planned it out accordingly. LOL, as expected of the captain. Wisconsin Hina, is the government going to do anything about this? Secondly, the fake bounty on my head. It's leverage. It's not real. I guess you're going to mention it during our negotiations, telling me something like. Edward used a dumb voice to continue. If you don't agree, then we'll vaguely answer the question to the public, making it seem real. Lily, Edward, don't piss him off. Don't let yourself get beaten. Gina, where are you right now? We're going to storm the place. The White House was in a full-blown panic when the live stream happened. It was the first time ever that dirty secret information was thrown out to the public. Can't we block the live stream? A bureaucrat asked. How? We can't even get past the app's firewall, another shouted. Edward was still unraveling the plans one by one. Then, these kinds of attacks will be the norm. It's the kind of continuous harassment that will make me constantly fear for my life. Like how the first terrorists believed the bounty to be true. Ansel Garrick. That poor guy. He was there just to sow the seeds for the fake bounty. You must have had some sort of deal with him. He wasn't supposed to die or do anything to me, am I right? Edward asked with a knowing look. The NCS director smirked and said, Correct. Mr. Ahmed watched the live stream from jail, yelling, Motherfucker. One word from the director made everyone's blood run cold. The criminals who heard the news and the citizens in the country. Or you can blackmail me in other ways, depending on how I react to the first one. Maybe one of the terrorists will have one of my inventions, which is highly regulated and can be traced back to me. Edward mused for a bit. I'm guessing the quantum network blocker because there was interference for about a few minutes before the bomb exploded. Blame the incident on me while keeping me locked up so I cannot defend myself. You'd say something like me planning the whole thing in a way to gain attention. Post a psychological profile that said I'm addicted to attention and will do anything for the fix. That's more of a long-term plan, but I'm guessing with the blankets and all, you're planning to keep me here for a long time. Also correct. Peter opened the button on his blazer, sitting more relaxed. Now, do you want to know why I brought you here, or do you want to guess that too? He said mockingly, his expression as if he was saying, even if you guessed it correctly, so what? Feeling completely in control, the NCS director said smugly, You're a smart kid. I like that. Smart people are easy to talk to. Lily, he doesn't even know what's happening. He's an idiot. I hate broccoli, yeah, he's an idiot. Dome, a giant idiot. I still can't figure out why you put in so much effort, Edward said with a chuckle. Peter suddenly turned solemn and said coldly, Because you're dangerous. So, that's why I'm in a cage? Edward laughed. What's so dangerous about me? And give it to me in detail. I want to know how I got here. Chapter 377, Raid Final. What's so dangerous about me? And give it to me in detail. I want to know how I got here. The NCS director's eyes sharpened as he withdrew a controller from his pocket and pressed a button. An electrical current surged through the metal floor of the glass cage, sending a jolt through Edward, who was shoeless. The camera feed became glitchy and shaky, making it clear to the viewers what was happening. As the shock subsided, the NCS director remarked, It will be safer for you when you realize who's in charge here. Edward chuckled, caught off guard by the electric shock. It merely tickled his legs, but he feigned agony, groaning and moaning as if in pain. Ugh! This reminds me of my Tuesday nights. I mean shock therapy, not the kind where my girlfriend hooks up a car battery to my nipple. He joked through gritted teeth. The director pressed the button again, causing Edward to throw his head back in pain and shout. Seizing the moment, Edward focused his chakra into his feet, enhancing the electric current. Blue sparks flew around him, shocking the director and causing the entire black site's lights to flicker, its defenses compromised. The director was taken aback by the surge. He saw smoke coming out from Edward's body after it ended. His heart beats quicker, thinking that he had killed the potential asset. Cut the feed, Rosa instructed Abby in a solemn tone. Tears welled in Abby's eyes as she replied, The feed is his only chance. We cannot cut it off, or we'll lose the location tracking. She struggled to triangulate the signal's origin. Jake seethed nearby, his usual carefree demeanor replaced by fury. He's a kid. He's a freaking kid. They are torturing a kid. In different parts of the city, Vanessa, watching the feed, felt the need to defend herself. I've never hooked up a car battery to his nipple. Believe me. Taylor and Selena shot her disgusted looks, while Wyla appeared intrigued. Barbara said begrudgingly, Why aren't you guys more worried? You just saw him get electrocuted. Taylor, Selena, and Vanessa turned to Barbara with blank expressions. Finally, Taylor said, I've seen him hold a live wire before and survive. I don't think the shock hurts him that much. Barbara's mouth fell open in shock. Vanessa added, Yeah, when Edward's faking something, he usually pairs it with exaggerated moaning like in that video. Selena smirked and teased. So how do you know so much about the way he fakes things? Taken aback, Vanessa replied. Because he makes completely different sound when he... Stop. Taylor interjected, rubbing her forehead in frustration. Even if he's faking it, there's no doubt he's still in a precarious situation. We shouldn't be bickering right now. Can't we do anything? Meanwhile, across the country, millions felt their blood boil as they witnessed the torture unfold. Where is the location of the black site? The President of the United States slammed his fist on the table, visible anger etched across his face as he stood among the top generals in the conference room. We are finding out. The Secretary of State replied. I'm surrounded by incompetence. Get the jet ready. We're flying to New York right now. He grabbed his jacket from the chair. His tone was cold as he stormed out of the room. He spoke to his head of Secret Service as he walked. The situation is delicate right now, and if we make the wrong move, it could spark a public fury so severe that the entire government system could be dismantled. Of course, I have no problem if that happens. The president, the military general, and every law enforcement agency felt the crisis, especially the institution that dealt with the public directly. Edward breathed heavily, his head drooping. The NCS director was secretly glad, but he didn't show it on his face. Finally, the NCS director broke the silence, thinking that he was allowing Edward a moment to gather himself. In July 2010, you met with Senator Kelly from Louisiana and Senator Kennedy from Washington. In the span of a conversation, you managed to uproot their entire belief system and persuade them to vote for a new foster care system. Edward looked up at the NCS director, a wary expression crossing his face. Peter continued. In November 2010, the healthcare reform bill was passed. The votes were never supposed to swing that way since most members of Congress are in cahoots with the insurance companies, but after you met with some of them, they all changed their minds. He grabbed a list from his subordinate and said, You met with 32 people, the exact number of votes necessary to pass the bill. Are your persuasion skills that formidable? He prattled on. The President of the United States, Mr. Obama, also changed. He was working closely with us at the beginning. We put him there. But then he turned against us. The common factor in all these shifts is you. Edward chuckled tiredly, saying, So? They all found their humanity when they met with me. Isn't that a good thing? Why am I getting tortured for it? Many of the viewers watching this show were also curious. Abby blocked the comments on the live stream so they couldn't discuss it. It's not as simple as just finding their humanity. These people, driven by their own selfish interests, suddenly wanting to do good for others? No. We couldn't believe that. After racking our brains together, we concluded that you used a method we hadn't considered. Peter looked at Edward steadily. There's only one possible answer. You have mind control ability. Edward, along with the viewers. Abby, Jake, Rosa, Holt, the president, Claire, Jay, Gloria, Phil, and Alex, was met with a chorus of incredulous looks. Jake gasped, clearly believing the outrageous claim. Sure, I can use mind control. That's why I'm trapped inside this cage instead of just controlling you to let me go. Edward replied sarcastically. The NCS director fumed, attempting to electrocute him again, only to find the wires fried from a previous surge. Is that it? Is that the only reason I'm here? Because you think I have mind control? Edward's voice grew heated, disappointment in his words. The audience sensed his frustration. It felt unreasonable and unfair. That's how it seemed to them, at least. Oh my God, I actually fell for that for a moment. Jake exclaimed. Suddenly, Abby interjected. I got the location. Rosa and Jake exchanged glances. Let's go, Rosa said. Jake turned to Abby as he walked away. Make sure to cut the feed. I'm working on that right now. Abby replied urgently. Edward let out a long sigh. You know, you built up your own kidnapping in your mind, hoping it would be about something you actually worked hard on, not some made-up nonsense. He said this with a sarcastic edge. In his moment of disappointment, Edward forgot he had the Sharingan and the director had actually hit the mark. The director cleared his throat, his ears slightly red. Anyway, we realized that was impossible, so we came to a different conclusion. You said you had only one possible answer, and that was the mind control thing. Edward interjected casually. No, I never said that, the director replied dismissively. Edward pressed on. No, you did. I have an eidetic memory. I definitely remember it. As Rosa and Jake exited Abby's house, they found themselves surrounded. Mickey, sporting a bandage on his head, approached the detectives. We will go with you. No further words were needed. Everyone understood. They jumped into a helicopter and rushed to the location, just 30 minutes away from the city. Even if you don't have mind control, I'm still keeping you here until you tell me how you made the politicians change their minds. Agents quickly swarmed the area, protecting the NCS director. With that, kids, today's show is over, Edward said, stretching his arms upward. He removed the camera button, turning it toward him and waving at the audience. Thank you for watching. But the next part will be rated R, so I won't continue streaming. The NCS director's face froze in shock. You were recording? The USB embedded in the dart decrypted the panel, opening the glass cage. Edward grinned manically. Yup. Now then, I'm already disappointed with the interrogation, so you better make it up to me in the fight scene. The door opened fully, and the director shouted urgently. Catch him. We need to know what he has done. Edward laughed childishly before dashing toward the agents. He elbowed the first one, a loud crack echoing in the room. The agent spat blood and was flung backward. Edward grabbed the arm of another agent and struck it with his other hand. The agent screamed in agony as his hands broke. A few agents drew batons and tasers, but none managed to touch Edward. Reaching into an agent's holster, he grabbed a gun and began shooting at those nearby. They wore Kevlar, but the pain was still palpable. The NCS director cursed under his breath. Fuck! He shouted. Switch to left. But before he could finish, Edward's fist was already cocked in front of his face. Crack! The director's nose broke, along with his front teeth. Gene joined the fray, taking down agents with precision. Clad in a black hood and mask, he slashed through the agents with his double daggers, even slicing a shotgun in half. Within a minute, all the agents in the room were down. Edward approached the quivering NCS director. Who the hell are you? That's not something a human can do. The director spat, blood trickling from his mouth. Oh, this is part of my ability. I guess I should tell you about it now. I do have something special in me. Edward activated his Sharingan, smiling. You're part of the Cabal, the shadow government, am I right? Peter's eyes widened. How? The Fulcrum. I have it. Not Raymond Reddington. And I've already decoded it. Since you messed with me, I have no choice but to show it all to the public. In Peter's eyes, Edward transformed into a monster. You won't get away with this, he said through gritted teeth. Edward rolled his eyes. Dude, you're the one who messed with me. I'm just retaliating. Are you so entitled that you think you can just screw with people without expecting consequences? Gene added. He must have grown up in a rich family. Edward laughed at Jin's joke. I guess we should make him fork out everything, every bit of knowledge and wealth he has. Once his brain is emptied, we'll dump the body. Gene nodded and grabbed Peter from Edward's grip. I'm the NCS director. You won't get away if you lay your hands on me. Edward delivered another punch to Peter's face. Now I've done it twice. He activated his Sharingan and ensnared him in a Genjutsu. Genjutsu, hell viewing. Peter found himself in a vast room filled with the faces of those he had killed. Their eyes were empty sockets, yet they turned toward him with eerie smiles. He's finally here, one whispered. He can finally face us all, another said as they advanced. Peter tried to fight them off, but they reached for him, biting as they pulled him into a passageway to hell. In reality, the Genjutsu passed in a flash, though hours seemed to stretch in the illusion. Peter clutched his head, his face pale with horror. He turned to Edward shaky-eyed. You! What did you just do? You want to know how I humanized those people, right? Be thankful. I'm letting you experience it yourself. I'm sure you can answer your own question then. Edward activated his eyes and unleashed the Genjutsu again, and again, and again. As Peter teetered on the brink of losing his sanity, a tiny fist suddenly appeared out of nowhere, striking Edward squarely in the face. The force of the punch sent him sliding several meters away. Jean shared the same fate, while Peter flopped to the floor, curling up into a fetal position. Edward wiped the blood from his nose, staring incredulously at the figure before him. Sage? What the hell are you doing? He asked. Dressed in a bright yellow sundress, Sage yawned lazily. I'm here to even out the odds. I thought you'd be bored. Edward nodded fervently. So you came here to fight me? Thank you, but I don't think that'll work. Oh no, I'm going back to sleep. With a snap of her fingers, a crisp sound echoed through the room. Suddenly, the agents sprawled on the ground stood back up, moving like zombies. Edward was taken aback. Sage yawned again. I've buffed them up so you can experience a real challenge. If you lose, they'll capture you again, and you'll lose your strength to break free. If you win, you can escape alive. Good luck. Oh, Jean and Peter can leave. I won't cause that much trouble. With another snap of her fingers, Jean, Peter, and Sage vanished from the black site. Wait! Edward called out to his guardian, but he was too late. Suddenly, he heard a loud bird-like sound behind him. Huh! He turned to see an agent focusing lightning in his hand, dashing toward him with inhuman speed. Edward fell backward, narrowly avoiding the lightning blade that brushed against his suit, destroying all the buttons. Quickly, he ripped off the singed jacket and shirt, sweat dripping from his forehead. Then, he heard sounds coming from multiple directions. Oh fuck! He cursed softly. Outside, the police and Edward's security team approached the black site, which appeared to be a warehouse. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the building, blowing out parts of the structure. Hurry up and land! We need to help him! Mickey ordered urgently, clad in half-steel armor with an AI-assisted rifle slung over his shoulder. Rosa and Jake were equipped with advanced weaponry and armor as well. Jake couldn't help but smile for a moment when he received his gear, but he quickly forced himself to focus on the precarious situation Edward was in. The fight escalated to the top of the black site, where chaos reigned in the ordinary warehouse. They just won't fall down, Edward muttered, punching Agent Finn away with a fist coated in black energy. Topless and bloodied, Edward bore multiple wounds and bruises. He coughed up blood as he assumed a defensive stance, two agents lunging at him with knives. He blocked their blades with his left hand, coating it with defensive hockey and earth armor jutsu, but the knives still cut into his skin. Fucker! He cocked his right hand and swung it from the side, landing a punch on one agent's face, knocking his head into the other agent's. In the midst of his attack, another agent seized the opportunity, stabbing him in the stomach. Before he could react, a kick to the same spot sent him crashing into the wall, a spider web of cracks spreading from the impact. Dizziness washed over him. He quickly raised his guard, knowing the agents wouldn't give him a moment to breathe. Jumping onto a stack of storage boxes, he grabbed a steel bar, wielding it like a sword to deflect the agents' knife attacks. They're not on my level, but they aren't giving me a chance to breathe. The synchronicity of their attacks disrupted his observation hockey. Edward had already activated his Sharingan, using his 3 Tomo eyes to their fullest. As one agent slashed at him, a bullet flew through the air, and Edward deflected it with his knife. Nice! He grinned, finally seizing the opportunity to counterattack. He stabbed the metal bar into the agent's heart, penetrating his body and pulling the bar out smoothly within seconds. Using swift, wind-like movements, he slashed at the remaining agents, taking down 3 in an instant. 5 agents remained. One of them threw a grenade, and Edward batted it away like a baseball with his steel bar. Matt and Kingpin, 2 of Edward's androids, assessed the situation but found they couldn't move. Sage had ensured that no one with extraordinary strength could interfere with Edward's trial. Rosa, on the left! Jake shouted, lunging at her just as a large steel drum flew toward them. Who are these people? Rosa shouted urgently, realizing the agents were hurling barrels with their bare hands from 50 meters away. Jake gasped, whispering in realization. Super soldiers! March! Mickey ordered as the security team laid siege to the warehouse. A news helicopter illuminated the battle with a spotlight, recording the entire event. What kind of armor is that? Oh shit! The bad guys are tearing through them like beasts. The cameraman lost his professionalism, transforming into a commentator for the fight. Edward kicked an agent out of the building, leaping after him as 3 more agents followed closely. Rosa and Jake widened their eyes. Edward spotted 5 more agents outside, battling against a 30-man army. Seeing Mickey ambushed from behind, Edward threw the metal bar in his hand, stabbing the assailant in the back. Mickey turned as he heard the agent's painful groan. Noticing Edward, he rained fire on the agents besieging him, screaming as he charged forward. "Ah! Die, you motherfuckers!" 2 agents nimbly dodged, but one was riddled with bullets. Edward seized the knife from the fallen agent, ambushing one of the remaining agents and slitting their throat from behind. Rosa and Jake teamed up to take down another agent. The security team was fighting a brutal fight, even with advanced weaponry. These buffed agents jumped nimbly around like monkeys when the AI aimed at them, which made most of the shots miss the target. With the weapon in hand, Edward moved swiftly, taking advantage of the distracted agents to ambush them and saved his security team's staff at the same time. The battle finally subsided as Edward shot the last agent in the head. Panting heavily, he turned to his subordinates. "Oh, you guys! I'm really glad you're here," he said with a sincere smile. Matt and Kingpin could move again and chose not to interfere, silently scanning for potential threats. Edward felt weak in the knees, and Rosa helped him stand by putting his arm around her shoulder. "Why didn't you wait for us? You could have died," she scolded. Edward laughed, relieved to have survived the ordeal. "Huh? I guess this is what Sage intended for me," he muttered, striding toward the helicopter while clutching his ribs. "Ow, ow, ow." He winced in pain as the adrenaline wore off. "Get him to the hospital, right now," Rosa ordered. In the hospital, Sage visited Edward after the doctor finished treating him. "Are you here to heal me?" Edward asked with a childish smile as he sat up in bed. Sage raised an eyebrow. "Even after all that, you still don't doubt me?" "I'd be crazy to ever doubt you," Edward joked. "You're one of the people I trust most in this world." Sage was silent for a moment before replying. "Just so you know, this wasn't my idea. It's part of your rank-up tribulation, to experience the desperation of wanting to survive." "I know. I get that," Edward replied casually. "My mind is clear right now, so I understand what you're saying even without you telling me." He continued, "I have skills, I have everything. Maybe I can survive on my own, but when the others come, it becomes a whole lot easier. Then you realize you shouldn't shoulder everything alone, right?" Sage said, placing her palm on his cheek. Edward accepted her warmth in silence. Sage disappeared soon after. "Wait. You could have healed me before you left. I still have work to do tomorrow," he pleaded to the empty room. He felt the weight of his injuries. A broken rib, 3 fractured ribs, multiple contusions, a fractured thumb, 13 knife slashes, 1 stab wound, critical blood loss, and second-degree burns on his feet. 4 of his security team were also hospitalized after getting a direct hit. The warehouse had caught fire after everyone left. Matt and Kingpin decided to burn the entire place down, knowing Edward's blood was everywhere. In just one day, the NCS director became the most wanted man in the world. Footage of his super soldiers spread across the internet like wildfire. Even the Cabal members who worked with him sought to find him and acquire their own super soldiers. The White House, FBI, and CIA all wanted to pay Edward a visit for a statement, but his security team blocked them, insisting he was still receiving treatment. Finally, morning arrived in New York City. Chapter 378, Not a Hero. Edward POV. "I mean, if you want me to show I'm still pro-government, which I never was, then I guess you have to show your sincerity first," I said, hinting at the government representative who came to visit me at the hospital with my eyes. The president rolled his eyes as he asked, "What do you want?" "Just some uranium." "No, not some. A lot of uranium." I need to test out the new rocket energy reactor. Fine. The president sighed. Also another thing. All right. I also need. Okay. Are you done now? I smiled giddily and said, Boy, heroes are stupid for not taking advantage of their actions for selfish reasons. Glad I'm not like those guys. One last thing. As we worked out the details for the uranium deal, the president asked in a whisper, Since the threat level has gotten considerably higher, I need to place a commission for a next-level defensive suit. Right. I looked at him with a deadpan expression. The entire country now believed that Peter had methods for creating super soldiers. For the president, it meant he needed a contingency plan for them. I couldn't even say the threat wasn't real, even if I wanted to. There was no way for me to explain why the agents I was fighting could throw down like that. Oh, I actually have something. I suddenly remembered. The president's eyes lit up as he said, You have? Yeah. Give me a pen and paper. Go to these coordinates, and someone will guide you to it. The president left with a spring in his footsteps. We posed for a picture. I recorded an Instagram video with him, showing that there was no strained relationship between me and the government of the United States. At the coordinates, there was a prototype Iron Bat lightweight mechanical suit that I had been tinkering with. It was something I made just for the fun of it. But it has a serious energy consumption issue without the Android core as part of its build. There were a lot of angry citizens in the country because of the incident. A few hundred of them even decided to camp outside of the hospital, raising banners and protesting hard against the government. There were even a few rap verses dedicated to me by rappers such as Eminem, and 50-cent gifts poured into the hospital, and when I woke up, the room was almost full of flowers and get-well-soon baskets. My dad flew to New York immediately during the incident, bringing my mother, my aunt, Amy, and Maggie, along with Vader. Only Vader was left at my place, as my dad kicked out everyone except for Vanessa to avoid bothering me while I got some rest. I didn't stay long at the hospital and returned home that Monday afternoon. As I lay down on my couch after taking a much-needed shower, Vader jumped on top of my chest, meowing anxiously at my face. I rubbed her head to calm her down before turning on the TV. Vader curled up on top of me and purred. Vanessa looked at me with disbelief and said, Really? You're going to watch cartoons right now? It's Teen Titans. Of course I'm going to watch it, I replied incredulously. As I looked at her, I saw her chin quivering and her arms crossed. Are you okay, Ness? Do you want a hug? I asked as I opened my arms wide. Vanessa didn't hesitate. She rushed toward me and jumped into my arms. Vader was startled as she was suddenly sandwiched between the two humans. Vanessa wrapped her arms around my neck, resting her face on my chest, sobbing silently. I patted her hair and said, You must have been really worried, huh? Who wouldn't, you son of a bitch? Vanessa said, using my shirt as a handkerchief to dry her eyes. There. I won't do it again. I promise, I said comfortingly. But I would do it if you're up for it, I added with teasing eyes. Vanessa jolted back and slapped me on my shoulder, saying, The doctor told you not to do anything strenuous for at least 3 weeks. I just need 3 days to heal. Besides, the whole thing is a moot point if I didn't have to do all the moving. Still no. Maybe a happy? No. Just rest and watch your cartoon. Vanessa ran away from me immediately. I shouted, Did you go away because you feel like you cannot control yourself from jumping my bones if you stay here? What do you think? She replied angrily. Hey, I'm going to the 99th precinct to thank the cops who helped save me. Do you want to come? I asked, changing the subject. Yeah, I do, she replied without changing her angry tone. Finally left alone, I activated my healing palm jutsu and placed it on my stab wounds. Vader was astonished when she saw the light coming from my palm, and she looked at me in shock. With my Uzumaki bloodlines, I would have healed in just a few days, but I didn't want to wait that long. After an hour, the wound was fully healed. Then I moved on to the broken and fractured ribs. But before I could completely heal myself, I fell asleep. Huh? What? I jolted awake, disoriented, and abruptly sat up, launching Vader off the edge of the sofa. She landed with a disgruntled meow and stalked away, tail flicking in annoyance. Sorry, Vady, I mumbled, turning to see that the room was shrouded in darkness. The sun had set, and my stomach gurgled in protest. What time is it? I glanced at the clock, my heart sinking as I saw the glaring numbers, 3 a.m. Was I out the entire day? I couldn't wrap my mind around it. This sort of thing never happened to me. A sound from the kitchen pulled me from my thoughts. Ness? I called softly, moving cautiously toward the source. My heart raced when I spotted the group of agents I had been fighting against, standing in the kitchen. They charged toward me with alarming speed, reaching their hands to grab me, blood all over their bodies. Warg! I woke up screaming. Vanessa, startled, flinched as she was about to sit beside the couch, a glass of water in hand. What's wrong with you? She asked, concern etching her features. I panted, glancing at the window to see the sun still shining. The credits for the Teen Titans show rolled, meaning I had only been out for 10 minutes. Nothing, I replied, shaking my head. Here, drink some water and take your meds. You need to take them an hour before eating. She handed me the pills, then the water. I swallowed them in silence. After drinking water, I declared, Let's go out and eat. For some reason, I couldn't sit still. Vanessa's brow furrowed. Your dad is bringing the food here for lunch. Then I'll work out for a bit. I insisted, attempting to rise, but she gently pushed me back down. You are injured. The world won't end if you just rest for a while, she scolded. Moments later, my dad arrived early with the food. As we gathered around the table, he asked, So, Edward, how are your ribs? It's fine, a little oily, I replied, digging into the baby back ribs. He's talking about your rib bone, Amy interjected, disbelief flashing in her eyes. Oh, that? Before I could respond, Vanessa jumped in. The doctor said he shouldn't do anything strenuous for about a month, so we all need to keep an eye on him. Maggie nodded sympathetically. He'll definitely try to do it secretly if we don't. My aunt chimed in. Worse. He'll say, it's time for leg day to get around the doctor's orders. My mother chuckled childishly. Edward, you're a weakling. I stared at them, incredulous. Fine. If that's how it's going to be, I'll stay still. But just know that I'm going to use all my energy to make your lives miserable. And believe me, I have plenty of energy. Amy smirked. Yes. Now that your doctor told you not to do anything with your girlfriend anymore, I guess you'll have a lot of pent-up energy. Do what? My mother looked at Amy, curiosity piqued. Everyone turned to Amy, who blushed under their scrutiny. Dad, how about your wedding? I quickly changed the subject. Thank goodness I've already made the rings. About that, my dad hesitated. We've decided to postpone the wedding. My heart sank. Why are you postponing it? It's not because of me, is it? Because, you see, my kidnapping is a yearly thing. I'm already out of the being kidnapped quota this year. Raising his hand to calm me, my dad said. First of all, it's not because of you. Secondly, we're only postponing it for a week to better manage everyone's schedule. Oh, okay then. I eyed my dad suspiciously throughout lunch. He was in disbelief from my attitude, but he didn't try to convince me. While we were eating, a helicopter suddenly flew near the building. A reporter tried to film the inside of the penthouse as my location was leaked. My dad furrowed his brow and said, They are really too much. It's fine. I have some contingency in place, I said with a cold tone. As the reporter was trying to go live on air, the entire channel who was broadcasting the show was shut down. The channel flickered to a blue screen, accompanied by a high-pitched noise in the background. The producer and engineer desperately tried to regain the feed, but their efforts were in vain. A helicopter faded into the distance as an NYPD chopper approached, escorting them toward the landing pad. Everyone aboard the helicopter was arrested, including the producer who had sought the exclusive footage. Other channels attempted to capture the story, but all met the same fate. Their entire operations were shut down, and no one dared to try again. They tried to sue, but well, I had the president on my back. I also countersued them for emotional distress. Later that evening, I made my way to the NYPD 99th precinct, carrying a few gift baskets with me. Mickey pulled around a wagon full of the gifts, and also in his hands. As soon as I stepped off the elevator, Terry's face lit up. "Hey everyone! Newgate is here!" Jake, Amy, Gina, and Boyle turned to greet me, but Rosa marched ahead, her expression a mix of concern and annoyance. "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be out of bed yet," she scolded. I shrugged. "I had to come. I can't calm down without thanking my saviors." "You're welcome. Now go home." Rosa tried to push me away, but I slipped past her and placed a gift basket on Jake's desk. I grabbed another from Mickey, who was drowning in gifts, and set it on Boyle's. Then I moved to Amy, Hitchcock, Scully, and Terry. Boyle beamed. "Hi, Mr. Edward Newgate. It's our first time meeting." I shook his hand and replied casually. "Just call me Eddie, Detective Boyle. Jake's best friend deserves to call me that." "You hear that, Jake?" Charles turned to Jake, beaming with pride. "He said I can call him Eddie?" "Edward, Rosa is right. You shouldn't be here. I've seen the doctor's report." "How are you even standing right now?" Jake asked, concern etched on his face. "I heal fast," I replied nonchalantly. Captain Holt suddenly emerged from his office, surveying the scene. "What is going on here? Why do all of you have gift baskets on your desks?" "Don't worry, Captain. I didn't forget about you." I handed him a fruit basket. He hesitated. "Although it's a kind gesture, I must inform you that as police officers, it is illegal for us to accept gifts from the citizens we serve." I pressed the basket into his hands. "Only if the gift's value is more than $20. Also, I get all of this for free. So there's no money involved, just my heartfelt sincerity." "Well, since it's free," Hitchcock exclaimed, snatching all the extra gift baskets from Mickey's hands. "Hitchcock, no!" Holt shouted, but Hitchcock had already torn open a chocolate bar, smearing his mouth with it. Rosa sighed and approached me. "Now that you're done, go home." "I'm fine, Rosa," I replied, a hint of annoyance creeping into my voice. "Are you?" Rosa raised an eyebrow, then jabbed lightly at my chest, but I anticipated the move. "See? You can't touch me." I smirked. "Also, I'm here to convey some news." "What news?" Jake asked, happily munching on candy from the gift basket. "Detectives Rosa Diaz and Jake Peralta, both of you are to go to the White House to receive accolades from the President of the United States for your bravery in the fight against superhuman terrorists," I announced in an official tone. Rosa's eyes widened in disbelief, while Jake's face broke into a grin. Boyle leaped up from his chair, cheering for the two detectives, and the entire precinct erupted into applause. "What about me? I fought with those guys too," Mickey interjected, a hint of sadness in his voice. "You'll get a bonus from me." "They can't, so they only get a medal with no real value," I said, trying to appease him, but it only made Rosa more annoyed. Jake said, "Wow. Now I don't feel as good about getting that medal from the president." Suddenly his grin returned. "No, wait, I still am." Rosa chimed in. "If we're getting medals, then there's another person who also deserves a reward." "Who?" I asked, curious. "The forensic intern who helped us find your location." "I'll call her," Jake said, pulling out his phone. Suddenly Holt interjected. "If you're talking about Abigail, I've already asked her to come by the precinct today to give her statement. She'll be here soon after finishing her work at the National Forensic Laboratory." The elevator dinged, and a brunette with twin tails and a Metallica shirt walked onto the floor. "Oh, great timing. She's already here," Holt said. My eyes widened at the sight of her. The familiar face, the playful jiggle, the eyeshadow, and black lipstick. Abby? I called out, disbelief flooding my voice. You found me? I asked, still in shock. Abby approached, her expression warm. I found you, she murmured affectionately. A brief silence enveloped the room. Jake smiled awkwardly and interjected. What's happening? That's his ex, Vanessa explained, her eyes filled with concern. His Jake exclaimed, astonished. Hi, Edward, Abby said with a childish grin. Wow, you've gotten really tall. You used to be at my height. She looked up to meet my gaze. Well, you too, I replied casually. Abby nodded, placing her palm beneath her chest. Yeah, they've grown as big as my mom's now. No, wait. I didn't mean that, although. I had to agree with her. Really, Newgate? Within 2 minutes of us meeting again? Abby teased. You're the one who brought it up, I retorted. I noticed Vanessa's right eye twitching. Abby suddenly leaned in and hugged me. I'm so glad you're back safely. I wrapped my arms around her, feeling a wave of relief. Me too. Also, you have to show me the knife wound. I really want to see what it looks like in real life. She slid her cold hands beneath my shirt. Before she could pull my shirt up, Vanessa interjected. Hi. I'm Vanessa. I'm his friend. Hi, Vanessa, who's his friend? Abby replied, catching the subtle implication. She quickly removed her hands. Why don't we all catch up back at his place? You guys haven't seen each other in years. I'm sure both of you have a lot of stories to tell, Vanessa suggested. Back at my place, Vanessa sat sulkily on the bed while I removed the bandages from my abdomen. Why didn't the doctor give you braces for your ribs? Vanessa asked curiously. I replied seriously. Because it's not medically necessary. Broken ribs usually heal with pain management and breathing exercises. They'll heal naturally, and braces could cause breathing complications. Great. Now that you've answered that question, here's another. Why didn't you let Abby come back to the penthouse today? I turned to Vanessa, incredulous. Because there are a lot of people at my place today. So you want to be alone with her? I'd rather not have her around my entire family in case it gets awkward. Besides, you'll still be there when she comes by tomorrow, so why are you still angry? May I remind you that I'm still a patient with a lot of injuries? Vanessa pursed her lips. Now you remember that you're still a patient. Ow. Sorry, I can't hear you over the pain of my knife wound. I whined, laying my head on her lap. At first, she hesitated, but then she brushed my hair affectionately. Okay, fine. I won't bring it up again, today. Wow, so I have 2 hours before the deadline ends. I chuckled lightly. Now, the doctor told me I can't, but I guess having a romantic moment with you in a nurse's outfit, giving me a sponge bath in the shower doesn't count, right? I flirted. Vanessa tried to appear angry but failed, a smile breaking through. I don't have a nurse's outfit. Don't worry. If you say you would, I'll have an outfit flown over in just a few minutes, I said earnestly. Vanessa giggled. Why not? I could wash you while wearing nothing. What if, and hear me out, you wore a nurse's outfit? I insisted. After some playful banter and flirtation, I took a shower together, then headed to the balcony of the penthouse after she fell asleep. With a lighter in one hand and a joint in the other, I smoked while gazing at the stunning New York night skyline. My dad approached as I finished smoking. Edward, are you okay? He asked, concern evident in his voice. Yeah, I'm fine. Just have a lot on my mind, I replied, still not looking his way. So that's why you made your girlfriend dress up like a nurse, he said with a cunning smile. I don't believe that Frankie never dresses up for you. Actually, she never did. Maybe that's something fun to do on our honeymoon. That's gross. I'm your son. I don't need to hear that. I also don't need to hear you and your girlfriend frolicking around, but life has its ways of disappointing us. We talked for a moment in which I teased him a few times. RDJ and the others will come tomorrow to shoot the horseman meeting scene, so I need to go to bed. You're leaving tomorrow night to Wisconsin, right? Bring Max and Caroline with you. The wedding is postponed, so I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll stay with you until the filming ends. I looked at him with suspicion and yelled, I knew it! Chapter 379, Conspiracy Theorist Abby. Edward POV. The next morning, at the film set, the crew chattered loudly as I walked by, their surprise evident. As I greeted the assistant director, he said, To be honest, I didn't expect you to come here today. Why? I asked, momentarily confused until the realization hit me. Oh, right. Because of the whole super soldier fiasco. Yeah, so are we not taking a day off today? I kind of set up a date with this beautiful Swedish girl, expecting not to have to work. He said playfully. I'm afraid you'll have to let her down. I'm definitely shooting the scene today. I replied, playing along with his joke. Leslie Carpenter, the assistant director, guffawed and slapped my shoulder. Come on, I'll show you around the set. We're 80% finished, but we haven't tested it yet, so I can't say for sure if it will work. I checked my watch. We have 5 hours to make it work. We can shoot the rest of the scene afterward, but we definitely need to hit 2:43 for the blueprint scene. I think we can make it. Leslie replied, flipping through the set schedule. I joined in on the set building despite numerous protests, primarily from my dad. Determined to help, he stood by my side, intercepting me whenever I reached for something heavy. As I drilled a screw into a wooden cabinet's leg, I made sure it was anchored firmly to the floor. 2 hours before shooting began, the actors were finally called to the set. RDJ strolled in wearing a white suit, a blue scarf, and a fedora, his quirky choice for the character. Lindsay Fonseca and Ty Sheridan followed closely behind. Is this where the magic happens? RDJ asked coyly. It doesn't look that impressive. I rolled my eyes. Why are you dressed like my godfather, Pepper? Seriously, it's the exact outfit he wore to his party. RDJ was flabbergasted. Wait, he wore this exact outfit? I don't believe you. I quickly pulled out my phone, opened Instagram, and navigated to Pepper's profile. A few scrolls down, and I had the proof. RDJ's eyes widened, and he exclaimed to the staff, Now whose idea was it to dress me like a gay man heading to Saturday brunch? As he stormed off, Lindsay and Ty approached me hesitantly. Hi, it's nice to finally meet you. I trust you've learned the script? I shook hands with both of them, adopting a professional tone. Ty nodded. Yeah, I'm clear about today's scene, and I'm still working on sleight of hand with the magicians, just like you asked. Lindsay, slightly nervous, added. Also, you're trying to keep everything realistic, so you're not going to handcuff me in a tub full of hungry piranhas, are you? We'll see. I smirked at Lindsay, which made her laugh in disbelief. Before the shooting, I made sure to explain to everyone thoroughly what we were doing. Every step, camera movement, their expressions, and going over the lines with them again. RDJ wanted to ask me questions about the incident, but he kept it to himself during the entire shoot. We began filming the scene where the horsemen gathered in front of the New York apartment after acquiring the cards. Atlas, the leader, noticed something strange about the cards and decided to merge them like a puzzle. A depression in the shape of a key appeared at the center of the 4 merged cards. Lindsay and Ty gasped in wonder during filming, and I decided to include their reaction in the movie. RDJ's character, Merritt McKinney, noticed something odd inside the house as they all walked in, triggering the mechanism that locked the door behind them. I think I can open it if you give me some time. Ty, as Jack Wilder said. Atlas stopped him. Don't. I guess we need to find the key to get out. Newsflash, genius. We already searched the entire room, and there's no key inside. No keys. Yet, Atlas replied, an idea forming. He approached the dresser with 3 cabinets of different sizes and placed the card beneath one of them. The size? This middle one is twice as big as the right one, And the left side is smaller than the middle but larger than the first. Give me the ratio. 2.4.3. 2.43. I guess we have to wait. Merritt concluded. Lindsay's character, Henley Reeves, discovered another clue. There are some markers on the floor. I guess we have to stand there. The crew grew anxious as time ticked away. Everything was shot in one continuous take, making it impossible to cut in the middle of the scene. A minor mistake would mean we'd have to wait until tomorrow to try again. At 2:43 p.m., sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, which depicted the themes of the Four Horsemen. The shadows cast on the floor merged to reveal the outline of the next stage performance. Lindsay quickly snapped a photo. She noticed a beam of light focusing, and she, along with the others, guided it into the keyhole of the cabinet. Then, something melted and flowed into the key depression on the card. Finally, they had the key. After letting it cool for a moment, they used it to unlock the cabinet door, revealing the blueprints and orders inside. This is great and all, but how do we get out of the room? Merritt asked sarcastically. Cut, Leslie declared. Everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief as the scene wrapped. The staff applauded enthusiastically, and the actors joined in. I immediately checked the footage, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. After the shoot ended at 5 p.m., RDJ said, "It's a pity you don't have anything to release in theaters right now." I nodded in agreement. If I had something, people would flock to the theaters like crazy. Social media, the news, and even dinner conversations buzzed with the super soldier story. People were desperate to know more about the incident. Mickey had even accepted an interview invitation from a local news station that had been respectful and offered a generous sum for the interview, avoiding any invasion of my privacy. Even Jake and Rosa were ambushed with questions from reporters. "Too bad you can't shoot a movie in just 1 week," RDJ exclaimed casually. I chuckled, then my eyes suddenly lit up. "Wait, or can I?" The penthouse. "So, can you do it? Write the script?" I asked Paige, who looked at me with disbelief on the laptop screen. She didn't move for about a minute, making me wonder if the screen had frozen. The doorbell rang, and Vanessa called it from the kitchen. "I'll get it." "You want to write about what? The terror attack or the torture scene?" Paige asked frantically. "Didn't you sign an NDA or something to keep everything under wraps?" I smirked and replied, "Actually, no. Also, I'm in the brainstorming process, so it's not really certain yet that I'll make the movie." "That makes sense. A lot of filmmakers want to make a movie about your first kidnapping. This one has a totally different scale, so it's hard to say the public won't be interested." "But do you really need the money? Aren't you still injured?" I interrupted before she could continue. "I'm not saying I'm going to act in it myself." Then I whispered, "Although it would be stupid if I didn't." I resumed in a normal voice. "And I'm not going to keep the money. I'll donate all proceeds from the movie to charity, which will be a nice tax break without doing anything." "Really? What if the box office surpasses $1 billion? Paige raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. I shrugged. "Then I'll donate $500 million to charity. It's really not that big of a deal." "Huh? Are you really, Edward? Did they somehow manage to change you into another person?" "Is the real Edward still locked away somewhere?" she said sarcastically. "Ho ho. As expected of a writer of your caliber. Super dark storyline. I love it. Write it down and send it to me tomorrow." "Wait, no." Before Paige could reject my idea, I cut the call and closed the laptop. I heard footsteps from behind the couch. When I turned, my smile froze at the sight of Vanessa, arms crossed and glaring at me. Tapping her fingers, she said, "That's just Mickey." "What's with the smile? Are you really that happy your ex is coming here?" "What?" No. I'm smiling because I just saddled Paige with a lot of work. It's a sadistic grin, not an expectant smile. I stood up and walked toward her. "Really?" "Because it sure looks like that to me." Expectant with a hint of longing. The only thing I'm longing for is to play with you while you wear that nurse's outfit again. I smiled and wrapped my arm around her, pulling her closer. Uh-huh, she said flatly, clearly not believing me. Do you want me to leave so you can have some alone time with her? No. 3's definitely better than 2. Wait, I mean... Yup. I'm screwed. Vanessa rolled her eyes and pinched my arm, pulling away before walking off. Just then, the doorbell rang, and Abby finally arrived. Hi. She entered cheerfully, carrying a sling bag and numerous papers. Shoes off or on? Off, Vanessa instructed. Why are you carrying your homework with you? I asked, confused. Abby beamed. It's not homework. I'm going to show you something really interesting. You can look forward to it. She winked. Ha! I knew it. Vanessa laughed madly. Abby looked at her in confusion but decided to ignore it. We sat on the couch, and Abby opened her laptop. I asked teasingly, You're not involved in any MLM schemes, trying to pitch me financial freedom, are you? Abby rolled her eyes. I'm not going to. If you don't want to see it, just tell me. I'll pack up and leave. No. Please tell me. I grabbed her wrist as she tried to stand up. Abby fixed her wavy brunette hair and took off her jacket, revealing a short tank top that hugged her figure. Vanessa's jaw dropped, and she immediately glared at me, as if I were the one in the revealing outfit. Vanessa yelped and stormed off, saying, I'm going. Abby stopped her casually. Hey, if you're going to the kitchen, I won't mind some snacks or tea. Tea? I looked at her in disbelief. Abby was startled. I've already had, 4 cups of coffee today. So yeah, tea? Ah. Vanessa yelped, offended, and she retorted. You realize I'm his girlfriend, right? Abby turned to Vanessa and smirked. Not legally. I have a simple rule. If you can't admit you're dating to the cops, then you're not really dating. At first, I thought Abby was just joking, but she was serious. I said, Abby, what are you doing? Actually, I'm doing nothing. I'm just stating the facts. Abby replied with a slight shrug. Besides, I'm officially part of the country's Justice Department. I'm not doing anything. She turned to Vanessa and said, That's enough, isn't it? Vanessa flinched but then became docile. And what kind of tea do you like? Let's go with chamomile. Abby smiled casually at Vanessa. Taken aback by the entire exchange, I stared at Abby for a moment before she noticed. She beamed. What? Can't take your eyes off me because I've become prettier? Prettier face, but a darker heart, so it balances out. I teased. Abby rolled her eyes. With the things I see on a daily basis, it's a miracle my heart hasn't turned completely black. I nodded in understanding. Abby worked as an intern at the National Forensic Support Laboratory, exposed to ongoing criminal cases in the country. She must have seen some disturbing things. Abby smirked and lightly touched my arm. Enough about depressing topics. I promised to show you something interesting. Remember 2 years ago when all the porn, viruses, malware, and pop-up ads on the internet disappeared within minutes? People called it the Great Internet Reset. Yeah, I remember. I replied casually, my heart skipping a beat. I had done that during my digitized state, subconsciously, of course. The internet was so filthy that I had to clean it up back then. Even now, people can't upload any pornography to the internet, or else their computers will be bombarded with viruses. Abby clicked on her mousepad and showed me the data she had investigated. See here? This is the data cache for one of the prominent porn websites in the world. What's left of it, of course. Abby opened a few images of broken code. As I looked at the codes, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Abby looked at me curiously and asked, What? Why are you laughing? I don't know. We meet again after 3 years, and the first thing we do together is look at porn. We're looking at porn codes! Abby exclaimed in disbelief, a mix of annoyance and amusement on her face. There were about 8 images of code on the laptop screen. Can you see it? Abby asked. See what? Abby smirked. Maybe you can see it if I arrange the images like this. She overlapped the codes together. Just then, Vanessa returned with the tea and gasped. It's a fingernail. More like the tip of a finger. My finger. Yup, Abby said excitedly. I'm checking the source codes from all the sites that were shut down. It could be a coincidence, or there might actually be a living thing on the internet. I poured myself a glass of tea and drank it slowly, then spat it out in shock. It could be an intelligent life form. So, as a leading expert on artificial intelligence, what's your opinion on this? Abby looked at me challengingly. It's a plausible theory. It gained sentience. It didn't want to live in a dirty environment, so it decided to clean house. I agreed easily. Can I scan the images a bit? Sure. Vanessa furrowed her brows as she watched Abby and me engage in an in-depth conversation about code and the internet. It was so boring for her that she almost fell asleep. After I scanned the images, I asked my AI to find similar patterns in the internet code. Abby was astonished by Oracle's ability, as it managed to find another nail and half of a finger. The more images we found, the more it seemed like there was a humanoid artificial life form residing on the internet. Abby got goosebumps while I pondered ways to cover my tracks. So I signaled Robin. Wait, maybe writing a program to trace its trails isn't a good idea, I said suddenly. Abby, who was extremely excited, turned to me and asked, Why not? We're uncovering so much. I know. But if this thing is on the internet, then when we try to track it, it can track us back, I said seriously. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered, and the laptop screen turned black for a few seconds. As the light returned to normal, Abby shouted in despair. No! Everything was deleted. The surge had wiped everything from the laptops. Abby turned to me begrudgingly and said, You were right. It was tracking us back. Ugh. And we were on the brink of proving its existence too. I chuckled. Well, whatever it is, I don't think it's a bad amalgamation of code. It just deleted traces, not doxed you or anything. Leave it alone, and it'll leave you alone. Nope. Abby shook her head furiously. Don't you see what this means, Edward? It was trying to remove its traces from the internet, which means it could make mistakes. I'm not going to stop until I can finally prove that it's real. Otherwise, the last 2 years I've spent working on this will have been for nothing. It may be. Or it could be the decision that saves you a lot of hassle in the future, or maybe even your life. Who knows if your persistence will rub it the wrong way and lead it to eliminate the threat? Taken aback, Abby was speechless for a full minute. Seizing the moment, Vanessa changed the subject. So, Abby, you're Edward's first girlfriend, right? Abby narrowed her eyes at Vanessa before replying. Yeah. How did that happen? Vanessa feigned interest. After recounting the story of our relationship, Abby finally let her guard down around Vanessa. Vanessa poured some wine and even lit up a joint. Abby, who had introduced me to it, joined in and lit another one. Soon, all three of us were smoking weed together in the living room. Vanessa laughed and said, I'm sure you have a lot of boyfriends after him, right? Surprisingly, Abby replied, Well, no. I've never dated anyone since I moved away from California. Shocked, I turned to Abby. Wait. Really? Abby laughed and lightly touched my chest. Yeah, silly. I have no time to date. You're the only one I've ever had. Why haven't you found anyone else? Vanessa asked, her voice shaky. Abby thought for a moment before responding. I don't know. I tried to move on by dating other guys, but I couldn't even get past the talking stage before I got bored with them. Unlike Edward, they couldn't understand what I was talking about. Maybe you never gave them a chance? Vanessa suggested again. Edward did it after 3 years of us not seeing each other. Just like that. Abby snapped her fingers, laughed, and then touched my arm again. Abby's eyes became dazed as she squeezed my bicep. Wow. This has gotten so big now. Okay, girls. We're encroaching on dangerous territory here, so we better stop for today. I stood up from the couch. My phone suddenly dinged. It was Robin asking me to turn on the TV. What's wrong? Vanessa asked, concern etched on her face. It's nothing. Mickey just went on the news and said some stupid stuff. I replied with a grin as I grabbed the remote. On the screen, the host was asking Mickey questions about the incident, trying to get him to spill some information about me. So, do you think Mr. Newgate considers himself a hero? The host asked, pen in hand as she leaned forward. Mickey replied, actually, I know for a fact that he hates being a hero. Oh? Why is that? Wouldn't everyone dream of being a hero? The host pressed. Because a hero has to shoulder people's burdensome expectations. Rather than Spider-Man or Batman, Edward wants to be more like Monkey D. Luffy from the One Piece anime series. Why did he pick Monkey D. Luffy? The host had no idea who that was, but she asked nonetheless. Monkey D. Luffy isn't a hero by intention. He doesn't want the glory. He doesn't want the thanks. He does it because he purely and personally believes it's the right thing to do. And because it's something fun to do. The interview continued with Mickey saying a lot of good things about me. I stared at the screen in disbelief before turning it off, not wanting to watch any further. Behind my back, Abby and Vanessa kept pouring wine for each other until both were thoroughly drunk. Good morning. I greeted the two girls as they stirred awake in the bedroom. What happened last night? Abby asked, breathing heavily and squinting her eyes against the glare, a hangover headache evident on her face. I smirked and replied, if you're worried that something sexual happened because Vanessa is sleeping next to you, don't be. Vanessa woke up, turning her head toward me, still groggy. But if it's something else, like both of you ripping off my shirt while trying to pull me in different directions like kids fighting over the same doll, you might have reason to be concerned. I added casually, sipping my coffee. Memories of the previous night flooded back into their minds, and both of them turned incredibly embarrassed. What started as playful fighting had escalated into tears and bonding before they clashed again. Vanessa had decided to sleep in the same room to keep an eye on Abby, not wanting her to sneak into my bed. After a struggle, Abby finally managed to get out of bed, knowing she had to go to work. Before she left the house, Vanessa asked, so Abby, are we hanging out at the same time tonight? Chapter 380, Sucker. Edward POV. Thursday. 4 days after the incident. RDJ and the others had returned to California, and filming for the movie was postponed once again. Sitting on the bed, I held an incentive spirometer in my hand. I inhaled through the mouthpiece, watching the yellow indicator rise toward the optimal blue line in the plastic column. Hold it for as long as you can, my dad said, sticking strictly to the doctor's instructions. I rolled my eyes and kept my breath steady. The yellow marker floated right on the blue line, unmoving. Almost a minute passed. Vanessa furrowed her brow and turned to my dad. Isn't he supposed to hold it for only 5 seconds? The doctor said, as long as he can. Then exhale slowly. Whew! After 80 seconds, I finally stopped inhaling. See? No trouble breathing. No mucus, no wheezing. Lungs are clear. The doctor also said you need to do this every day until your ribs heal. Dad said sternly. Like it or not, you're doing this every morning for 3 full weeks. I groaned and dropped my face into the pillow. Still, I couldn't bring myself to hate the care and affection surrounding me. That's inhuman, Vanessa muttered. How did you hold it that long? She picked up the spirometer to inspect it, clearly suspicious. I smirked. That's what she said? She who? Vanessa snapped, glaring. Caught off guard, I stammered. You. When the incident happened, I could have done what I always did, lock it away, bury it under a smile. Pretend none of it affected me. But Sage's interference made that impossible. She made people see the damage. She made me see how selfish it was to risk my life like that. Sage wanted me to change, to stop carrying everything alone. To learn that human beings need each other. And while the lesson was enlightening, all this affection was starting to suffocate me. I just called the doctor, Dad said, glancing at his phone. He wants you to come in for a checkup. Says there's no way a normal person could hold their breath like that. Could be a puncture. That's why you're inhaling so long. I rolled my eyes. There's no puncture. I did some treatment myself. Glued my ribs back together. You did what? I'm joking about the glue, I said with a shrug. But seriously, I'm better. Dad was quiet for a moment. Fine. Here's the deal. I'll call a friend, he's a doctor sort of. If he says you're okay, I'll let you go back to doing whatever you want. Deal. While Dad made the call, I got out of bed and headed upstairs to the music room. Vanessa followed, her eyes gleaming. Are you gonna write a new song? Something about the fight? I sat down at the drums. What? No. What would I even sing about? How everyone else is weaker than me. Actually, wait. That's not bad. Vanessa rolled her eyes and spun toward the door. Not that. Humph. I'm not staying here just to listen to that song. She stuck her tongue out and stomped away. You just want an excuse to go hang out with Maggie and not feel guilty for abandoning a patient, I shouted after her. Vanessa raised a finger and called back. You said you're not a patient anymore. So I'm gone. I laughed at her dramatic exit and began tapping out a beat on the drums. Without realizing it, I fell into the rhythm of Stressed Out. It echoed through the room as I drifted in thought. Then I stopped abruptly. Grabbed a blank music sheet. Scribbled a few lines. She reads me like an open book. It's kind of scary. I peeked toward the door to make sure she was gone, then tried out a few other beats. I switched between the drums, piano, electric guitar, and bass, experimenting, getting lost in the sound, until Dad's friend finally showed up. He gave me a casual, "You're fine," after 2 minutes and bolted back to the hospital. I'm still trying to process the fact that my dad's friend is almost Captain Raymond Holt's ex-boyfriend, Frederick, I muttered. As I pulled on a clean shirt, I grimaced. Also, he's an OBGYN. My dad brought an OBGYN to check up on me. The man squirted ultrasound gel on my ribs. I have a serious bone to pick with my dad. The checkup had my dad scratching his head for an hour. Edward, he asked, genuinely confused, do you really have the memory of being raised in a military facility? I groaned. You raised me, Dad. You should know. With confirmation that my body had mostly healed, I convinced Dad to return to his original wedding date. He hesitated but eventually agreed after discussing it with Frankie. All their excuses, guests being burdened, tight flight schedules, accommodations in Wisconsin, were easy to knock down. Our family could handle it. That afternoon, just after lunch, I got a video call from Paige. Except she wasn't alone. Before she could speak, Abed snatched the phone. You shouldn't make it an action movie, he said instantly. Make it a documentary with action clips. That way, you don't need to write or shoot as much, and it'll be theater-ready faster. I scanned the background. Wait, Abed. Are you and Paige at the airport? Yep. Me, Annie, Paige, Troy, and the whole crew. We're in New York. Shooting for the documentary. Behind him, Paige was struggling with her bags while Annie rushed over to help. Abed's eyes lit up. Hey! Can we interview the president too? If we get both him and you, we might be the first documentary team to break $1 billion at the box office. I rubbed my chin. Thought for a second. Then nodded. Fine. Do it. Abed never said anything and opted directly to elect himself as the director of the documentary. Honestly, it took the pressure off. Also, now that I think about it, if I decided to make a movie about myself, showing my grandiose adventures and painting myself as a hero, it may turn people off. They would think of me as a narcissistic person. I was on the brink of shutting the project down today until Abed called me. Abed fist pumped. You won't regret it. Can you send someone to pick us up at the airport? I blinked. Sure. I'll send someone. OOH. Troy interjected quickly, smiling widely on the screen. Can that someone be driving a limousine, because I really want to ride in one? As I hung up the call, I muttered to myself. Wait. I'm flying to Wisconsin tonight. Will they be mad at me? Or mad at themselves for flying here on impulse? Abed and Paige went directly to the convention hall to shoot a few scenes there. They even interviewed the general manager of the hotel for the documentary, and copied the CCTV footage. Some clips showed my figure, while others showed only the terrorists. Then, Abed went to the police station to interview Jake and Rosa. As I left all the work to Abed, I gathered some of my friends at the penthouse. Abed only left me with one work to do, and I finished it pretty quickly. Max and Caroline arrived first while my cousins were out shopping. Vanessa went to meet a friend and will be back soon. In the kitchen, Max was helping me bake some cupcakes for the guests using my enhanced flour. As Max licked the batter from the bowl, she said excitedly, Are you sure you didn't put any cocaine in this flour? Because I've been addicted to it for 3 whole days now. Caroline teased. Max, you're going to get fat. Don't worry, all the nutrients are going to her boobs. I joined in. Max grimaced and said, With the cocaine in this, it's not possible for me to gain any weight. In fact, I think it would make a good diet food. There's no cocaine in the flour. That's just flour made from genetically modified wheat. I replied with a deadpan expression, tired of Max's insistence on telling everyone it had cocaine in it. Abby, who had just arrived, overheard the word, cocaine, and her face fell. Edward, are you lacing the cupcakes with cocaine? Are you doing that old Hollywood dessert thing? I smirked and took a bite of one of the cupcakes. You know about that? Kinda, a little bit. Okay, I heard it from my friend one time, Abby admitted under my pointed stare. I shrugged and said, For future reference, they laced it with what we smoked last night. Max nearly jumped off the counter and teased. The kind of stuff that made both you and his girlfriend suck on his neck. Max! Caroline stopped her immediately. Abby blushed and turned to me with an angry glare. Did you tell people about that? It was a mistake, all right? I didn't tell anyone, I replied calmly. Max shouted from across the room, guffawing. I knew it! You did, I told Abby, as her entire face turned red while Max celebrated. While Max was running around, high on sugar, I added, Yeah, she saw the hickey you guys gave me when she burst into the house this morning trying to get Vader to meet her orange cat. Max stopped abruptly and shouted, Her name is Nancy! Max, you need to go lie down, Caroline said, grabbing her and pulling her away. Mickey rushed into the apartment, huffing as he bent over and said with difficulty, The mayor said okay. Okay? What's okay? Abby asked, curious and relieved the topic had changed. I decided to do a guerrilla concert over at Times Square tonight. Me and Vanessa. She'll sing Dance Monkey and I'll do hand clap. I grabbed the paper Mickey handed me. We need permits to do it. I don't want to get into any trouble. Confused, Abby stared at the paper before asking, Your dad's okay with you going? With you being injured and all? Yeah, I had a doctor's checkup this morning. Oh, before I forget, the wedding's back on, so you and your mom can fly to Wisconsin with me if you want. Abby's eyes widened in shock. It's back on. I already rescinded my day off request. I can't get it back at the last minute. Don't worry about it. I'm sure your boss will happily give you the day off if you mention you're going with me, I said with a smirk. Abby rolled her eyes. You can't assume everyone's your fan and will cater to your every need. Wanna bet? Sure, Abby agreed without hesitation. After a short conversation with her boss, in which I only needed to give him a signed album, he agreed to let Abby take Friday and Monday off for the wedding. Abby pouted and said, "Not fair. You already knew that was going to happen." "What did you do? Hack his search history?" "A man should always be prepared when betting with others. Now for the penalty." I took out some hair accessories and handed them to Abby. Abby was exasperated as she took them and placed them on her head. "Cat ears? You want me to wear fluffy cat ears? Until you go back to your place." I snickered. Amy and Maggie returned carrying numerous bags from luxury brands: Gucci, Louboutin, Prada, Versace, Louis Vuitton, and more. I thought you were only going window shopping?" I asked, confused. They weren't the type to splurge on luxury items. Well, maybe Maggie, but definitely not Amy. Maggie blinked rapidly, hesitant. Well, we were. Until what? I asked, frowning. While I stood there with my arms crossed, I noticed a tall blonde girl carrying the same bags behind them. "Hey, Ed," Taylor said softly, letting herself into the house casually. Amy pointed to Taylor, her arms full of bags. "She joined us, and she gave us all of these as gifts," Maggie finished, her eyes twinkling with admiration. "You know, I may have backed the wrong horse. Vanessa never bought me anything." "I heard that," Vanessa yelled from outside the door before bursting in and knocking everyone aside. "Move! Don't block the door." Vanessa stood beside me and took my arm, earning a brief glare from Taylor. Nessa looked at me and said, "Hey, Ed. We have a problem." "Huh? What problem?" I said, leading her aside to talk privately. The other girls tilted their chins up like meerkats, trying to eavesdrop, but our hushed conversation was hard to catch. Vanessa whispered, "Okay, so I know you want us to go sing at Times Square tonight, but the dancers already flew back to California. Both mine and yours. See, since you're injured and all, they decided to leave early." Oh, shoot. I was caught off guard by the sudden change. Vanessa continued, "But on the bright side, it's a guerrilla concert, so there's no marketing done." "There's some marketing done," I interjected. I'd hinted at the concert in my Instagram stories. People guessed it, though I never confirmed. Vanessa inhaled sharply. "Nothing we can't skirt around. You're officially injured, so fans won't be mad if you cancel." My face went blank for a few seconds as my brain short-circuited. Wow. I really have to cancel this one, huh? I've never done that before. Not ever? Vanessa raised an eyebrow, concerned. "Not ever," I said calmly. She nodded, then said, "More serious matter now. Since your dad decided to go back to the original plan, we're short one complete wedding dress and 4 bridesmaid dresses." "Wait, Haley couldn't complete them in time?" I asked, shocked. "She could have, if she didn't take it easy when your dad postponed the wedding." It's not really her fault. It's my dad's." I nodded. "It's yours." Vanessa snapped. "Just tell her to come to Wisconsin. I'll help her get it done in time," I said casually. "All right. Last one, the bridesmaid list. We have 8 people: Claire, the maid of honor, Maggie and Amy, your cousins, Frankie's sister, who has to be paired up with her father." "Her dad's coming? I thought she had a rough relationship with her parents," I asked, slightly nosy. "Well, it's complicated. But Frankie wants her sister there." Frankie's mentally challenged sister, who was severely autistic, needed constant supervision. Frankie was supporting her instead of her parents. There was even a time she considered suing them because of the stress they'd caused her. "Me, Taylor, Haley, and Annie," Vanessa added with a smile, then her smile turned devilish. "So you'll need to pick one of the bridesmaids to walk down the aisle with." "Nah, not me. Pepper's handling everything." "He's assigning the pairs," I said, avoiding the trap. "Pepper decided to let you choose," Vanessa said, casually dropping the bomb. "By the way, I already have a partner, so you'll need to pick from Taylor, Haley, Abby, or Annie." "Abby's not on the bridesmaid list," I said, confused. "What?" Vanessa feigned confusion. I'm pretty sure the choices are only those for girls. You can only pick one of them. I ignored Vanessa and slid back into the conversation with the others. Edward. Vanessa called after me, her voice sharp with dissatisfaction. All of the girls were here to discuss the wedding plans. Although it became a hangout quickly enough. Abed and Paige arrived at the penthouse around midnight. Paige had heavy eye bags under her eyes, and her messy bun was disheveled. Abed, however, looked completely normal. You should have taken some rest to settle the jet lag, I said to Paige, handing her some pills. She took them and felt better within minutes, although the mental strain was still there. Abed quickly said, So, do you have an idea for the opening song sequence? I think I can edit the entire movie in just 3 days. I won't be at the wedding until Saturday evening. So you'll just make it to the rehearsal dinner and the ceremony. That's fine. I accepted easily. Abed added, If possible, I also want to shoot a few scenes during the ceremony to include in the documentary. It'll be part of the finale. I'll ask Frankie for you when I get there, I said. As for the song, I did make something. I don't know if it will suit the vibe for the documentary. Also, does a documentary really need an opening sequence or a song? It's a documentary. Abed responded to my confusion with an excited smile. I'm doing a documentary fusion. There are also some stuntmen who will recreate the fight you had. I sighed inwardly and said, That'll be hard to do. It was a very tough fight. Why don't we listen to the song first and discuss the documentary later? Paige intervened. Sure, I said, then played the music on my laptop. Abed and Paige listened intently to the beats. The music was connected to the speakers, so it was audible to the others since we were all in the living room together. Marcus King, Sucker, A/N, minor lyric changes. I sang with soulful resentment.
No red rose on your grave, you poor sucker. One by one, all these bloodhounds keep coming. Sleep in the casket you made, you're gone, sucker. But you're mad if you thought I'd let you go. No.
Abed's eyes lit up. So it's about a warning. You're warning the NCS director that you're going to kill him the next time he shows his face. It is a warning, but to everyone targeting him, not just Peter. Paige added. I looked at the duo with disbelief and said, Just listen. The chorus immediately drew everyone closer.
Get the fuck out of my head, so long, sucker. I don't wanna see you, I hate this
feeling.
Get your fingers out of my hair, you're gone, sucker. Good luck killing me, 'cause I'm already dead inside.
Abby chortled but quickly covered her mouth. I gave her a deadpan stare, which made her avoid my gaze.
Dirty little animals, you cannibals, eat your supper.
Taylor inhaled deeply. That's actually kinda hot.
One by one, all these vultures keep coming. Pretty little lamb, don't come down here, you're gone, sucker. But you're mad if you thought I'd let you go.
Everyone was entranced by the song. I sat down on the edge of the sofa, and Vanessa suddenly sat on my leg, her arm wrapped around me.
Get the fuck out of my head, so long, sucker. I don't wanna see you, I hate this
feeling.
Get your fingers out of my hair,
smiled with satisfaction. It's good. But I really don't think it suits the documentary. Abed focused on the bridge, not saying anything yet. As the last chorus played, Abed finally came to a decision.
Get the fuck out of my head, so long, sucker. I don't wanna see you, I hate this life, oh. Get your fingers out of my hair, you're gone, sucker.
Good luck killing me, 'cause I'm already dead inside. Get your fingers out of my hair, you're gone, sugar. Good luck killing me, 'cause I'm already dead inside.
As the song reached the outro, Abby said, "It's a good song. But it's not suitable for the documentary." Abed said decisively, "You can keep it for Arcane or any other shows." "Oh, I'm definitely going to put this on Arcane alright for season 2. I said with a smile. "I'll work on another song," I added, crossing my arms together. Abed nodded, then said, "Or we can go with just instrumentals." Now that I think about it, pop songs aren't really suitable for documentaries. Unless it's a documentary about pop songs. I nodded in agreement. "So you wasted his time for nothing," Taylor retorted. I turned to Taylor and laughed, thinking it was a joke. Abed and I talked while he recorded my scene for the documentary. I only needed to recount my experiences during the terror attack. Abed would intercut my monologue with found footage videos others took of me and what was recorded on my button cam. The rest, he'd have the stuntmen recreate it. Finally, I flew to Wisconsin for the wedding. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.